I think you should have told him I haven't any experience.
A one-nighter becomes a nightmare for all involved.
Are you doing anything you couldn't be doing better with somebody else?
You turn over and go to sleep. Don't utter one sound. Then we'll all live happily ever after.
Marilyn Monroe, Richard Widmark, and Anne Bancroft in her film debut, Don't Bother to Knock, premiering Friday, September 7th on AMC.
Back in the late 1930s, 20th Century Fox was casting an ingenue role in a movie called The Rains Came. And what happened is it came down to really two actresses, Brenda Joyce or Lana Turner. Well, Brenda Joyce gets the part, and she went on to play Jane in some of the Tarzan pictures. Lana Turner went back to playing bit parts. Now, 17 years later, Fox decides to remake The Rains Came, and this time Lana Turner was not disappointed. She was given the leading role with Joan Caulfield in the ingenue role that Lana Turner had missed out on so many years earlier. Caulfield was the wife of Frank Ross, the film's producer, but that wasn't how she got the part. She and her husband happened to have been at a party that was given by Lana Turner, and it was Turner who suggested that Joan would be just perfect for this role. But before her husband cast his own wife in the leading role, he did clear it with studio head Darryl Zanuck. As you can imagine, if you think about it, it was a little bit odd when Fred MacMurray had to kiss Joan Caulfield in front of her own husband, an incident that was further complicated, by the way, by the fact that Fred MacMurray's wife, June Haver, was also present, so they had all kinds of problems. While it was uncomfortable filming a love scene in front of their respective spouses, that was nothing compared to the conditions they met when they were on location. After the Indian government refused to give the studio a permit to film in India, they went to Lahore, Pakistan, where the daytime temperatures would start out at 110 degrees and they'd just go up from there. But it wasn't just the heat that the actors had to deal with. When a tiger by the name of Simba went out of control, her handler saved Michael Rene from her claws, but they got mauled themselves in the process. Here are Lana Turner, Richard Burton, and Fred MacMurray in The Reigns of Ranchipur. The Reigns of Ranchipur was one of the movies Richard Burton made so that he could afford to work in London in the theater. Burton could make more in Hollywood in 15 weeks than he could in 15 years at London's Old Vic. So he would make the money in Hollywood, and then he'd go back to England to work on the stage. He had several disagreements with the studio concerning the Reigns of Ranchipur right from the beginning. When director Gene Negulesco learned that Burton was learning to surf on weekends, he asked him to stop because a suntan would change the color of his complexion under the heavy makeup that he had to use to make him look Indian. Burton agreed to stop surfing, but he refused to learn an Indian dialect for the film. He said that in his days at Oxford, all the East Indians there that he knew spoke impeccable English. Well, Negulesco conceded, and he allowed Burton to speak the King's English in the movie. By the way, Burton, here we see him in a turban. He was assigned his own personal turban wrapper for the duration of filming. The guy's name was Ali Mojid of East Pakistan, and he was hired to come in every day to make sure that Richard Burton looked like a proper East Indian, which he does here. He still looks like Burton, though. Now let's take a look at this.
Next on American Movie Classics, Frank Sinatra, Jack Haley, and Victor Borge star in the musical comedy Higher and Higher. It's next on American Movie Classics.
One morning, I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How he got in my pajamas, I don't know.
The Marx Brothers. Their charm.
Why, you're one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen, and that's not saying much for you.
Their logic.
We keep the roof in the basement, so when the rain comes, the chimney don't get wet.
Their grace. Join Harpo, Chico, Zeppo, and Groucho for a hilarious romp.
Well, all the jokes can't be good. You've got to expect that once in a while.
In Animal Crackers. Tuesday on American Movie Classics.
I think it's just delicate to have an imagination. I just have no imagination at all.
His was a hot summer night's dream, and she was just the girl to make it a sizzling reality.
He wouldn't be lying on the floor in the middle of the night in some man's apartment drinking champagne if he wasn't married.
That's a very interesting line of reasoning.
It's Marilyn Monroe's steamiest performance in The 7-Year Itch. Wednesday.
This is Assistant District Attorney Tommy Chamberlain, who's in love with Judge Margaret Turner, who'll sentence Richard Nugent to prison.
I hope we haven't inconvenienced.
If he doesn't go out with her Bobby-Soxer sister Susan, who thinks Nugent's her knight in shining armor. Got all that? Well, you will when you see Cary Grant,
Hello, greetings, Yuki Doogie.
Myrna Loy, Shirley Temple, and Rudy Valley in the delightfully breezy comedy, The Bachelor and the Bobby-Soxer. Thursday.
Premiering Sunday, September 9th on American Movie Classics.
Touch nothing.
A famed detective faces a baffling case.
Self-memorize, you are my only witnesses.
Join Albert Finney, Ingrid Bergman, Lauren Bacall, Sean Connery, and an all-star cast for the transcontinental classic thriller Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. Premiering Sunday, September 9th at 5:30 p.m. on AMC.
How can humble servant be of assistance?
A cinema's favorite super sleuth is back.
Good detective never asks what and why until after he sees.
Watch Charlie Chan's astonishing crime-solving techniques. He'll crack mysteries, wrap up murder cases, and blow the lid off organized crime.
This is surgical birthplace of new faces.
If you like classic mischief,
Mischief sounds nice.
the clue is not to miss our month of mayhem with Charlie Chan right here on AMC.
American Movie Classics has star quality with greats such as Fred Astaire. We'll be back with more on Astaire after this.
Here's a classic offer from the channel that brings you 50 years of Hollywood. It's American Movie Classics magazine. Each monthly issue takes you back to Hollywood's heyday with colorful features, photos, and fun, plus American Movie Classics program listings and movie descriptions. To order, send check or money order for only $11.95 to American Movie Classics magazine, Post Office Box 2065, Marion, Ohio 43305. Order American Movie Classics magazine today. The magazine classic movie lovers love.
Fred Astaire, a man whose unique talents changed the course of dance history in American film. Almost single-handedly, Astaire raised the song and dance film to a new level, leaving his mark on all musical movies to come. Born in Omaha, Nebraska in 1899, Astaire started dancing when he was 5 with his older sister Adele. By the time they were in their early 20s, Fred and Adele Astaire were a famous dance team, performing on stages around the world. Astaire came to Hollywood in 1932 and was given a small part in the Joan Crawford film Dancing Lady. Following this, Astaire was teamed with a young actress named Ginger Rogers, and both played supporting roles in the RKO musical Flying Down to Rio. Together they danced the karaoke, and within weeks this dance became the craze of the nation. RKO then paired Astaire and Rogers in 9 more films over the next 9 years, and each of these films remains to this day a true classic. They blended perfectly. The romantic pairing of Fred Astaire's man-about-town style and Rogers' girl-next-door appeal made them one of the most popular and beloved teams in film history. After the team broke up in 1939, Astaire went on to make many more box office hits, raising the level of dance in film to new heights. His talent and sophistication made Fred Astaire a screen legend, a man who possessed star quality.
You're watching American Movie Classics.
Stay tuned for our
Watching American Movie Classics.
I want the 2 of you out of this town by sundown.
Billy the Kid,
Well, Billy, I guess this is it.
Doc Holliday.
Doc, have you got a local?
Together, they were no match for the one woman who could tame the West.
And how did you get back?
It was pretty tough, but the more I thought about seeing you, darling, the easier it got.
Don't miss Jane Russell's sizzling screen debut in the Howard Hughes classic, The Outlaw. Saturday on American Movie Classics.
The Indians call it the River of No Return. From here on, you'll find out why.
A river leads 3 people to face their sordid pasts.
You know what I mean. He knew who you were. He knew where you came from and what you did. He knew you killed a man and went to prison for it. And why you went to prison? Because you shot him in the back.
Robert Mitchum and Marilyn Monroe star in Otto Preminger's classic film River of No Return. Friday on American Movie Classics.
Back in the early 40s, remember this guy? I remember him when he looked like this. Frank Sinatra was the name, and it was on everybody's lips. Everybody, that is, who was female and under the age of about 17. At this point, Frankie had little appeal for adults, and most entertainment people were willing to write him off, saying he was only loved by the Bobby-Soxer crowd. I remember my parents saying, this guy can't sing. Crosby, he can sing. Sinatra, no good. In August of 1943, Sinatra traveled to the West Coast to do a concert with the Hollywood Bowl, you know, the symphony out there, and make his first featured appearance in the movie Higher and Higher. Well, he had arranged to sneak off to Santa Fe Chieftain in Pasadena to avoid all the fans that might be out there. Well, he did avoid the 5,000 or 6,000 who were gathered at the Los Angeles station, but not 2,000 who went to Pasadena in the hope that he just might get off there. Well, as he stepped off the train, the crowd just surged forward and pinned him to the spot for about 20 minutes. Sinatra and songwriter Jimmy McHugh, who did the songs for Higher and Higher, took refuge in a garage for 2 hours until all the commotion went down. Sinatra's Hollywood arrival caused such a stir that the usually conservative Los Angeles Times treated it as front-page news. Now, despite all of this, Frank Sinatra was not really big enough in Hollywood to receive first or even second billing for the movie. That went to actress Michelle Morgan and former vaudevillian Jack Haley, whose name, of course, you know for his wonderful performance as the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz. Let's watch Frank Sinatra in Higher and Higher.